let's get started. Page number 17, the last portion. On that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. On the podium, Mr. D. Clark was first sworn in as second deputy president. Mr. D. Clark was the then ruling president uh, of South Africa, led as per the rules of apartheid. But he ended up being a negotiator for a free democratic South Africa, and he had a very big role in forming the new constitution of democratic South Africa. So Mr. Mandela is accompanied by his daughter Zinani, and Mr. D. Clark was sworn in as the second deputy president. Then Thabo Mbeki was sworn in as first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution. You know, when you are swearing in as as uh, as a representative of a democratic country, you need to abide by the rules of the constitution itself. So Mr. Mandela is saying that he sworn in as the president, and he said that he agreed that he will walk by the rules of the constitution, and how he will dedicate and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and his people. And he said, as he, you know, devoted more than 30 years in jail for free South Africa, he's going to devote his life and his term as the president of South Africa for the good of South Africans. To the assembled guests and the watching world, I said. So this was the speech when he became the first president of South Africa. He's referring to all the international leaders and South Africans and all those people who are watching his speech sitting at home. This is what he has to say. Today, all of us do, by our presence here, confer means give, glory and hope to newborn liberty. This is just not the freedom of South Africa. This is a hope that in one of the most difficult times of bondage, there was a hope that one day South Africa will be free, and it became free after more than 300 years. Liberty is freedom. Out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster. This is one of the best examples of human rights violation, apartheid. And he's trying to say the human disaster. It was not only about black Africans being killed or suppressed, and their rights being, crippled, I should say, for a very, very long time. But more than that, it was the black South Africans ended up being almost like a stigma, and they were in in their own country, So, and out of all that oppression, all that difficult time, all that oppression, all that rule of apartheid came out of a society on which all humanity will be proud. And this is the day on 10th of May 1994 when everyone from all across the world is so proud of South Africa, a free South Africa, and how they were resilient, and they were harmonious, and they struggled in a very um, non-violent way. We who are outlaws no longer so. So people who were part of the struggle, the freedom struggle, they were termed as outlaws. Outlaws means people who do not follow the rules or of that country. In Hindi and Urdu, you call them as bagi, rebel. So he said, we no longer are outlaws. We have not broken any law. Have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. Why he ended up being in prison is because, as per the rules of apartheid, he was charged with sabotage and trying to harm um, the you know the image of apartheid, or so that is why he was put into jail. He was a political prisoner, and he's saying that have today been given the rare privilege, the rare, rare means something which happens very once in a blue moon, privilege, opportunity to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. The same people who were termed as outlaws and political prisoners, the same people who were killed, abused, attacked, the same people who were differentiated on their skin based on their skin color and their race, they are the same people who are standing on their soil as free fellow South Africans and hosting more than 140 countries to celebrate the freedom of South Africa. So ironical, he's saying that. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take possession with the people of our country of what, after all, is a common victory for justice, for peace, and for human dignity. He's talking about that he's thanking all. Mr. Mandela is thanking all the people who came to celebrate the freedom of South Africa, all those countries who supported South Africa in a based on international ties, and how all the countries, international countries, made a common pressure on the ruling South Africa to abolish apartheid. And the other thing is that he's trying to say that this is just not the freedom of South Africa, but this is freedom for every citizen of the world, because it's a common victory for justice, and common victory for peace, and common victory for human dignity, human respect, human value, valuing one human being as a human being from the other one. He's trying to say that how we are celebrating equality, and here it says that because of its policy of apartheid, many countries had earlier broken off diplomatic relations with South Africa. He's thanking those countries. Thank you so much for trying to put pressure, in a diplomatic way on South Africa. There were countries who would say, no, we are not going to do any business with you unless and until you abolish your apartheid rules. So in a way, these are different kind of ways of pressurizing the then South Africa under the white rule. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. Emancipation means freedom from restriction. How would you feel if you, as an Indian, is forced to do something, and forced to follow a particular set of rules while the other Indians are following some different rule? So he's trying to say that we have freedom from all those restrictions. Our children can go in the same school as white South Africans. We can go to the same public place. We can have the same facility. Our children can study and go to schools and colleges and universities, something that they were deprived of for a very, very long time. We pledge ourselves, he's swearing in, to liberate all of our people from the continuing bondage of poverty. He's not only talking about Mr. Mandela, mind you, is not talking about only about black South Africans. He's talking about every South African who is a fellow native South African, irrespective of white, colored, or black. And he's trying to say that we have to, because South Africa was exploited for such a long time by one particular race. So the other race people were naturally underprivileged. They never got the opportunity to grow. And the economy of the whole country, entire country, was dwindling. So it was in a very bad shape. She's trying to say we have to come out of that bondage now. Now we are free as a free country from apartheid. Now we need to be free from poverty, deprivation. That means you are deprived of. You are not given. You do not have access to those facilities. Suffering and gender and other discrimination. People are discriminated on the basis of gender, male, female, on the basis of caste, creed, religion, skin color, God knows what all. So we need to be free from all that, and above all, most important, from poverty. So that means he wants to give equal rights to every South African so that they can all come up together economically. which was one of the most important factors. So never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. South Africa is one of the best, most resourceful continents that God ever created. Remember, he's trying to say that never again South Africa is going to see that era of bondage, you know, of oppression, of discrimination, and discrimination by a fellow South African brother to another, from white to colored, colored to white, colored to black, vice versa, anything. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. And he's trying to say that today, when the sun rose, it was one of the most beautiful uh, um, scenes that I could imagine. Not because it was a sunny day, because this was the first time when sun rose up as in a free South Africa after a very very long time. So let freedom reign. God bless Africa. This is just a figure of speech where he's trying to say that, even the sun is so happy today because it is shining on a free South Africa. This is what he said in after he became the president of South Africa. So a few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers roared in perfect formation over the Union buildings. So this is a way of celebrating the freedom of South Africa. And the South African jets, they started coming, and they started displaying all their different acts up in the sky, and they were flying over the Union Building and the amphitheater where all the guests and President Mandela was standing and giving his speech.